this was a bit more difficult because when I got there, though as I thought well prepared, I was not prepared for what was happening there. What I knew only later that just before I got there, or a year or a couple of years before, there had been ongoing huge internal purges. That means that actually up to 70% of the guerrilla in the southern island of Mindanao was killed by other guerrillas. They were hunting so-called DPAs, depenetration agents there, and the guerrilla itself was much more successful in decimating the guerrilla than the army would have ever been or ever been bringing. So there was still, at least to say the least, there was fear and there was also mistrust against everything or everybody coming from outside. So basically, I could not establish a formal or even informal contact with the guerrillas in the Philippines at that time. And I gave up the topic, at least for that time, and focused on a completely different topic than for my thesis. And after actually writing my thesis and being in Colombia, I had a meeting, and which is interesting because I was talking to precisely Michael Towson about what I was trying to do. Why didn't you go on with that thing? It sounds interesting. And he presented me to some Colombian students who were trying to do the same thing. Well, not comparatively, but at least in Colombia. And actually, this was the beginning of the second try to understand what happened there. And what I'm trying to do now here is, well, shed a bit of light of why this could happen. Well, not so much an orthography of everyday life in the guerrillas, what was used to be my original aim, rather, but a study of why could it happen that the guerrilla was so much more successful in decimating itself than the army could ever be. And in the last 10 years, about 10, 12 years, I've been interviewing and speaking to guerrillas, both in Colombia, but even more on the Philippine side, who have also participated in these massacres as victims, as perpetrators, as both. And then I also talked to the leading cadres of the NPA in the Rubber, because very next outside of it. What was striking me, for example, when I was talking to Joe Masison, perhaps you know him, he's actually the former leader of the NPA, and or it used to be that until recently, he is the leader. And one of the things he was asking me, I read his stuff, and his stuff is like, yes, I read your books, and you also read my poems? Yes, I also read some of your poems. And it was well, I would not say a strange question, but okay, left me like, thinking about why would he ask about his poems. And it's a fact that many of his books on Marxist topics, party topics, many books appear poems of his. that what they do, for example, they have for people who are not in the strict sense guerrillas, but are in militancy, they have like camps. And there, what they're doing is poetry, music, singing songs, and everything sounds like, okay, nice, that's art. What exactly is that? And what I was trying to see is how this is connected to how they behave so on. So on the one hand, they show art or poems or music as being their friendly side. On the other hand, the question is it really what it seems to be, or what they think it is, or what they are trying to portray of themselves? So there was this thing, okay, they're nice and artful people, and on the other hand, they massacre themselves viciously. So the thing is, how does that go together? It's not an easy task to do that. So what I was reminded of was a film actually, and a particular scene, and it's actually, of course, as you take it from the title, it's Francis Ford Coppola's Apocalypse Now. And there is a scene which is, for me, not exactly it's not the solution to the riddle, but it's sort of, well, another example of, but in the form of art, of the same thing. And well, it should be less than 4 minutes, but you stop me.
We're the hollow men. We're the stuffed men, leaning together, headpiece filled with straw, glass. Our dry voices, when we whisper together, are quiet and meaningless, wind and dry grass. A rat steak.
Oh, he's out there.
Grass in a dry sun.
He's really out there.
Shape without form. Shape without color. Paralyzed force. Gesture without motion.
Do what the men say. Dude,
Goes to the cross with direct eye.
this is dialectics. It's very simple dialectics. 1 through 9. No maybes, no supposes, no fractions. You can't travel in space. You can't go out in space, without with fractions. What are you going to land on 1/4, 3/8? What are you going to do when you go from here to Venus or something? That's dialectic physics, okay? Dialectic logic is there's only love and hate. You either love somebody or you hate them. This is the way the fucking world is. Look at this fucking shit we're in. Whipper and the whipper, I'll be fucking splitting Jack.
On the river, I thought that the minute I looked at him, I'd know what to do. But it didn't happen. I was in there with him for days. Not in the guard. I was free. But he knew I wasn't going anywhere. He knew more about what I was going to do than I did. If the generals back in the train could see what I saw, would they still want me his people back home want if they ever learn just how far from them he'd really gone. He burned from them.
Okay, so you just saw books there. Yes, because I don't really have lots of time, so I stop it there, and you can enjoy it later. But what is there? There are two points I'm going to try to get at. When you have, well, the 2 points are basically the thing of commitment, and there's another scene I want to show, but I'll leave it out. And one of the central points when talking to the builders, whichever side they were on, is that they have to be committed. And what in the processes against traitors, EPAs, etc., what was tested there was supposedly their commitment. Because only with a 100% of commitment, or whatever you give a figure for that, you have to have total commitment, and you have to show it. Otherwise, you were shown to be a traitor. The only other problem was that there were no words to show how committed you are. So this led to circles or rather not circles, but spirals of increasing violence against each other. Because there were never enough words for showing your commitment to the party, your commitment to the cause, and basically turned into, well, we had the word before, into sheer violence from all sides. What usually happened, so there were people began to be interrogated, they began to be tortured, many times the loyalty also of the torturers then was called in question, and they were being tortured, and again, so you had like vicious spirals of increasing violence against each other, and mistrust, of course. And 5 minutes, okay. And the other thing is, what were the two things left? They tried to remedy the staggering speechlessness there. One was trying to, well, for example, singing was one of the more important counter strategies, and the other one was or coping, but not counter, it's rather coping strategies. And the other one, especially amongst the dictators, was science. So when the increasing acts of violence did not show any results, so they were taken to science. Actually, the social sciences, when there were different attempts by various dictators to analyze what happens or happened then through psychoanalysis, through anthropology, yes, and also sociology. So these there were these twofold attempts, rather like attempts at coping, taking to singing or to reproduce poems, sometimes from childhood poems, and the other strategy to happen what went wrong, because at a certain stage basically everybody knew that something went wrong, but they just could not stop it. So they would send missionaries. You see Willard and Kurtz there, many cases they equally, well, or they failed in sometimes they would eliminate the other guerrillas, so and just enhance the spiral of violence. So just to imagine, to give you a time frame, so you have at least 3 spirals of violence in the Philippines, 2 in Mindanao in the southern island, and 1 in the southern Tagalog region, which is Luzon Island, the northern island. And it lasted at least 2 years in each case, and in the longest case in Mindanao, it was almost 4 years. And after the last spiral of violence, you had exactly 70% less active guerrillas. Most of them, a few would flee, and many were dead. And actually, you still have at least 20 to 30 mass graves in Mindanao with the guerrillas killed by their own. And it's a task for the anthropologists, but the forensic anthropologists, to find these mass graves and at least to give back the corpses to the families, which is a task which is still just in the beginning of being complete. So finally, and I wanted to dedicate a bit more, was Jessica Hagedron's Dream Jungle. She's writing about Francis Ford Coppola's Apocalypse Now, about the filming, about the shooting and filming, plus the discovery of the Tasadai. And she's linking the two events with a sort of, well, post-colonial narrative there. And what she's showing there is the rather structural violence which is behind both the shooting of the film and the discovery of the Tasadai. And you know, the Tasadai are these people who are supposed to be Neolithic in their culture, and there was the famous Lindbergh incident that Lindbergh, the aviator, was defending the rights of supposedly Neolithic, primitive people there. It is still not clear as how far this was a hoax or not, but what's still there is, in both events, literally interestingly linked, is the structural violence of colonialism there. And if you see the violence in the movement, in Marxist movements, you have also an inkling of how this colonial thing is going on there too. Because what has happened in the Philippines, and coincidentally also in Colombia, is that people were talking about who could be a traitor, in the sense of, okay, if you're like from this region or you're from that origin, you probably are not likely to be a traitor, or if you're like a small bourgeois from the city, it's more likely that you are a traitor. And something very similar happened actually in Colombia, where one of the guerrillas, you probably don't know, because they actually managed to annihilate themselves completely. So we're talking about 200 men and women, and all but 5 people killed themselves. So it was the story of the Ricardo Franco, just if you want to look it up. And there were other guerrillas trying to redeem what happened there, and they could not. And interestingly, it was said that the leader, one of the few who survived actually, was in the night reading poems and playing the guitar, whereas his member of the women fraction were being tortured to death. That's like the thing I'm going to finish with, in the sense that I'm still like right at the start of theorizing, because it's okay, you have interesting patterns there, but what exactly to do with this? So I'm not sure if you have great ideas what to do with this, I'm glad if you let me know. And the other thing is there's still more just one book and one film that treat parts of these well, there's lots more. There's also lots of autobiographies of the survivors of obviously, because that's what we tell. And there's still well, a lot of ethnography to be done. That's what I suggest.
Thank you very much. I think we already have some points here.
Thank you, Stefan. I find this observation of yours extremely interesting and also intriguing for me, since I'm tackling with parallel or similar problems of connection between violence and poetry, or poets, and also on one hand the situation I was talking before in like in Montenegro, where there was a high level of tribal violence and fights between the Montenegrins and the Turks throughout the centuries. At least at least four Vladikas, the rulers from that dynasty were poets. And also in the wider neighborhood, there was, as the attention was turned to Raul Karadzic, an ethnic cleanser, a mental psychiatrist and a poet, reminiscent to some extent to the quotes in the film. And but on the other hand, I'm thinking about the status and the role of poetry in modern, let's say, Western society, where the status of poetry is diminishing from the 19th century onwards. The philosopher Dilthey, for example, he wrote very interesting things about poetry. He was also observing this process of diminishing status, which was then going on and on, and today it's very diminished. People do not recite often poetry when carpets at the right, its role is diminished. But then you see, for example, if you consider philosophers, before that you had Heidegger and his readings of Hagedron, and Heidegger was considered poetry as really important. And also his notion of resoluteness, which he was putting into practice as a Nazi university lecturer, was probably related to his infatuation with poetry. But another more recent example is Alain Badiou, the communist radical, who is also having, for him, poetry is also extremely important. He wrote a book about poetry, which is, for this time now, it is a little unusual, isn't it? But he's considered poetry as a still very serious and crucial activity. So I'm thinking about this things, and that's why I will but Kura had an association with their commitment and the rest of it was high-tech.
Which may be less than a coincidence. But I don't know, are there any other questions on the budget? Okay.
Yeah, my question might sound funny. When there's an epic called Mahabharata, and there's the description of this war scene, and here we are standing but trembling, and on the other side you see the others. But now I see my relative there. We are related, okay? Enemies, but we are related in terms of kinship. So my question is about kinship. Like when this, at the time of 9/11, George W. Bush said, "You are with us or with a terrorist, yeah? You are with us or with the enemy." And you had to tell, no, he, the president of the United States, assumed that now there's just two kinds of people, allies or enemy. But if you start thinking in terms of kinship, are you on which side? Oh, my mother is from that side and my father this side. And which side are you? Oh, I'm on both sides. See, so this is how anthropologists think. So why don't you bring into your scene this anthropological thinking of I belong to many sides. But yes, I can stay with you, but at the same time I have allegiance to the no, I'm just saying.
I wanted to. Any other question? Otherwise, I start first.
Yeah. So why don't you? So this is a kind of you're stuck. You're bringing this film clip, and you see the same thing from your talk as well from the clip. Where can you go from there?
I was just thinking about whether this. It crossed my mind. Was the leader of was he reading his own poetry or did he read some other poetry? And I'm wondering whether this might have something to do with how to explain the atrocities he committed. You know what I mean? The fun part of the art is that it makes sense. It provides you with sense. So maybe, I don't know, just wondering.
Okay, let's start in the reverse. The poems in Colombia, the guy who was killing and torturing as reading poetry, that guy, or
No.
okay, that guy, the guy in the film, Brother is reading T.S. Eliot, the Holocaust. they would accept you as somebody who's there, but not 100% part of it. And they would treat you accordingly, not immediately kill you. And